The agenda of September 22nd, sir, was, it was a closed session minutes, correct? Yes. Okay, thank you. So may I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended this morning? Councillor Pursuta, Councillor Ferguson, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone. Is there any declarations of interest anyone wishes to declare today? Seeing none, thank you. Now, we do have the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. This is just the closed session one that's being held over. So may I have a motion to approve the September 22nd, 2014 minutes as presented? Moved by Councillor Johnson, second by Councillor Vanderbeek. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And we have delegation requests before us. 5.1 is a delegation request from Scott McPherson and Stephen Bold respecting the award of project number C13-49-14, 20 Road, HCO18, wastewater pumping station capacity upgrades. May I have a motion to approve the delegation request from Scott McPherson and Stephen Bold respecting this award for an upcoming or future meeting? Anyone like to move that? Councillor Johnson, Aidan Johnson, Councillor Ferguson, all in favor? Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the delegation request from James Gallagher respecting term limits for elected officials for a future meeting, or what's the wish of committee here? I'll ask that also. Councillor Johnson.
It's just a policy question for the term limits, and I understand the request that's before us. Would this not be more appropriate to go to the governance committee? I'm just wondering why it's at Audit and Finance, why it's not at either the governance committee or, if nothing else, the GIC.
Okay.
If you would like, you can refer it to the governance committee.
We could. I'll second it. Okay, so, but I had Councillor Ferguson on the speakers list, so I'll hold that. Councillor Ferguson, please.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chairman, Janice. Janice, do we even have any jurisdiction over this? Is this not the Municipal Act, which is a provincial act that has to be changed?
Yes, that's correct.
So I'm not sure, Madam Chair, why we'd even hear delegation. We have no authority over this. And so I don't really see any point. I think we should just receive it and advise them to go to the province and make their pitch with them, because we have no jurisdiction.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. That was a comment I wished to make. Vanessa?
He was advised when he dropped off his delegation request that it was probably under the Municipal Act, but I can just get in contact with him and advise him that it was received, and he can get in contact with the province.
So could I have a motion? Is that satisfactory to committee? We have no jurisdiction over that legislation. It's provincial. So do I have a motion then to just receive?
I'll move it to be received and advise them that this is a provincial matter and they should take it up with the province.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Ferguson, second by anyone? Councillor Pursuta, all in favor? Carried? Do I have some saying nay, or is carried? Everyone? Okay. I just see some questionables there. That's carried. We're going to move on to consent items. We have item 6.1 is the 2013 Standard & Poor's credit rating. Questions, comments? Seeing none, can I have a motion to move it? Moved by Councillor Ferguson, second by Councillor Collins. All in favor? Thank you. Item 6.2 is the placement of $89 million in debentures. Questions or comments, information, etc.? For a second to receive, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Vanderbeek, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. We have item 6.3 is the Freedom of Information Quarterly Report from July 1st to September the 30th. Questions, comments? Seeing none, motion to receive. Moved by Councillor Vanderbeek, second by Councillor Aidan Johnson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 6.4 is the 2014 third quarter tender report. Questions and comments? Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, and I don't know whether the appropriate staff are here for this right now, but through you to Mike. Mike, on page 8 of 10 on Appendix A, the fourth item down is the cab services for Stony Creek, Glenbrook, and Bimbrook. I just want to make a note that we had a public meeting on Wednesday night to announce to the community after the survey results that it was an overwhelming response to cancel the Transcab in Bimbrook. So the community was not willing to support 13 riders that were using it. So I just wanted to make a footnote there, so maybe you can change the, thank you.
Yeah.
Through the chair, we'll follow up with Public Works as well and ensure that that's reflected in the decisions as it relates to the contract review.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? I'll relinquish the chair to Councillor Aidan Johnson. I do have just one question, if Mr. Zagirik, if you just clarify. Very first item is the proposal for security guard services for the Hamilton Public Library, and we're looking at award amount of $1,239,909. Could you just give clarification on that? So I've never heard about this at all as a library board member.
Through the Deputy Chair, we can get some additional information as it relates to that tender and provide you the breakdown as to whether it's for a year or for an extended term.
I'd appreciate that, and the facilities that it would be for, because I'm assuming this could potentially be more than one branch, correct? Thank you very much. Take the chair back. Thank you, Councillor Aidan Johnson. Because I motion to receive the report then, moved by Councillor Aidan Johnson, second by Councillor Brenda Johnson. All in favour? Carried. Thank you, everyone. On to item 6.5 is the 2013 audited financial statements for City of Hamilton business improvements areas. Any questions or comments on that? Moved by Councillor Ferguson, second by Councillor Vanderbeek. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 6.6 is the 2014 third quarter non-compliance with the procurement policy report. Again, any questions and comments? Seeing none, moved by Councillor Pursuta, second by Councillor Brenda Johnson. All in favour? Thank you. Item 6.7 is 2014 third quarter emergency and non-competitive procurement reports. Again, questions or comments? Seeing none, motion to receive, moved by Councillor Collins, second by Councillor Ferguson. All in favour? Thank you. And 6.8 is 2013 City of Hamilton Municipal Performance Measurement Program. Questions or comments? Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, the one thing I found that was a little frustrating reading this, and I don't think that this is the staff's, I think this is the way that they do this. When you go to page, let's put it this way, you go to page 3 of 11, you'll see the number or operating costs for police services per household, and there's an amount there. And then you go down to page 9 of 11, you've got per person. Then you go to another one and it's per $100 or per $1,000. Each one of them is benchmarked in their own way, but it would be wonderful if it was all the same. So we understood how much per household, or for that matter, per person. And that would, to me, is apples to apples, and we know whether we're doing well and we're not doing well. That's just a comment for now. The other one I wanted to ask about was the Public Works infrastructure. In 2009, we have bridges and culverts where the conditions were rated to be good and very good, and they were 70%, and now we're down to 61.1. And conversely, we've got paved lanes of kilometers at 53% at 2009, but now we're up 67,000. So there's an improvement in one, and there's not an improvement. In fact, it's a lower amount in the other. Is there any comment on this as to what the capital budget is going to reflect this, or?
So through the chair, we don't have a explanation as to the variance. What we will do is provide committee with the email response back. I know that, again, this is MPMP, this is the provincial municipal partnership performance measures. I know there's been some changes to the way that the calculations have been determined in terms of what are factored in as costs, and so from when comparing one period to the other period, that can be a factor.
Sure.
But we'll provide a committee with a breakdown as to those two performance measures as to what's contributing to the change.
Thank you, and if my colleagues are not that, we can just do this one-on-one. And the other one that came out in my mind was when I was reading this, in 2009, operating costs for the convention transit per regular service passenger trip in 2009 was $5.87, and it's dropped significantly to $3.84. So kudos to HSR. I'd like to see some of these things highlighted, that we are providing the service and yet it's coming in at a less amount of money. And my understanding is our price of tickets did not go up. So we're not offsetting this. This is the same ticket price as it was in 2009 as it is today, correct?
Yeah, through the chair, I think it was 2012 or 10 was the last increase in transit fares, but we'll provide you some description as to the measures, because the measures do include capital, and from time to time that's a factor as to the change in the performance, and so we'll provide committee with some further description as to the highlighted measures.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Any other questions? It's an excellent report. It's good information to use as a gauge over the next year, especially through budget deliberations. So any other questions or comments? A motion to receive, Councillor Collins, Councillor Aidan Johnson, all in favour? Thank you, everyone. I went through those individually so we can let the new members understanding how we deal with some of our items instead of flying through them. Next is item 7 is public hearings and delegations. We have none today, Madam Clerk, nothing on there. We have no presentations to be made today, and we have one discussion item, that's 9.1. It's the Lobbyist Registry and Integrity Commissioner recruitment. Questions, comments, or recommendations?
Benjamin, I think you're looking for three volunteers.
Three members of council to be appointed. So, Madam Clerk, we're to pick 3 today, but they may not necessarily be from this committee. Is that correct?
Yes, you can send up recommendations to council for who they appoint.
I'd be happy to volunteer in that as former chair of accountability and transparency that used to do this.
Okay.
To have the continuity.
Okay. So, Councillor Ferguson would like to be one of the members. Any other interests here around the table this morning? Seeing none, so shall we, Councillor Aidan Johnson, sir. Okay, Councillor Aidan Johnson, we have 2.
Councillor Pearson?
No. And Arlene, would you be interested? Okay, Councillor Arlene Vanderbeek, how's that? So we have 3 right here. Perfect, excellent. So we're going to have a motion to approve the appointment of the 3 interested parties. Moved by Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Aidan Johnson, and Councillor Arlene Vanderbeek. Okay? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Pasuta, second by Councillor Collins. All in favour? Carried. Thank you, everyone. And they have a motion to approve, item, I don't have to prove that. That's done, correct, Madam Clerk? Thank you. 9.2, tax appeals under sections 357 and 358 of the Municipal Act. Questions and comments? Councillor Johnson's moving it, seconded by Councillor Vanderbeek. All in favour? Carried. Thank you, everyone. Moving right along, again, we have a very efficient committee here and staff give us very good reports to read. 9.3 is the Treasurer's apportionment of land taxes. Questions and comments? Moved by Councillor Ferguson, second by Councillor Collins. All in favour? Thank you. Item 9.4, City of Hamilton Ministry of Transportation 2014-2015 Dedicated Gas Tax Funding Agreement. Questions, comments? Councillor Johnson.
This is just an agreement between the City of Hamilton and the Province of Ontario, correct? This does not tell us where we're going to allot that money in our capital budget. It's just to get the agreements in place, correct, Mike?
Through the chair, this is an extension of the previous agreements. So again, it is the funding commitment, the provincial gas tax funding commitment. So similar to other municipalities in the province of Ontario who offer public transit, this is a required agreement and bylaw. The funding is presented to council again through the capital budget process, and it's at the discretion of council as to where that funding is committed or allocated. It is dedicated funding for transit, so again, through the capital budget process, council deliberates on the priorities, transit priorities.
Thank you very much, Mike, and at the appropriate time I'll move it.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Councillor Johnson moves it. Councillor Collins seconding it. All in favour? Thank you, everyone. 9.6, actuarial valuation for Hamilton Street Railway Pension Plan, January 1, 2014. I'm sorry, did I miss? No, my apologies, I did. Thank you, Councillor Johnson, Brenda Johnson. 9.5 I missed is 2015 advance payments to the external cultural agencies. Councillor Ferguson.
Question to you too, Mike. Mike, Part B of the solution recommendation says that any arrears first come out. Do we have any of these agencies that are in arrears, or is that those problems behind us now?
Through the chair, we have none of these agencies are currently in property tax arrears, and I'll just remind, committee is at the end of the budget process and at the end of what is now titled the City Enrichment process in terms of allocating funding. If there are any changes to the funding commitments as it relates to these agencies, we would reconcile at the end of that process in terms of the changes in funding.
Thank you. No other questions or comments? Motion to approve. Councillor Ferguson, second by Councillor Vanderbeek. All in favor? Carry. Thank you, everyone. Now we'll go on to 9.6. It's the actuarial valuation for Hamilton Street Railway pension plan at January 1, 2014. Councillor Johnson, question.
Yes, thank you. My understanding is there's a shortfall here, so they're asking for a budgeted amount of $3.87 million to be increased $1 million each year as the budget years 2015 to 2016 to fund the special payments for both the HSR plan and the Hamilton Wentworth Retirement Fund, and any other shortfall be funded from the HWRF actuary deficiency provision. My understanding is that we are going into some savings to pay off some of this, correct?
Through the chair, the councillor is correct in the sense that we're trying to smooth out the actuarial deficiency in the pension liability, and so as the report identifies, over the period of 2015 to 16, we will be adjusting the budget, and over and above that, in an effort to smooth it out over that period, there is a reserve, and we could leverage that reserve again just for the purpose of smoothing it out, not to provide any one-time sustainable funding, but again, just for the purpose of not resulting in a significant pressure for the 15 budget, but rather to smooth it out over that time period.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, to Mike, one more question, please. So $1.1 million will be transferred to the pension reserve to fund the future shortfalls. After that $1.1 million is taken out of that account, how much is left?
Through the chair, staff have just identified it's actually at the bottom of Appendix B. And so you'll see at the bottom of Appendix B is the estimated year-end reserve balance. And at 2014, it starts at just short of $6 million. And by 2016, the balance will be $2 million in that reserve.
So through you, Chair, to Mike, and that was my question. So $6 million, almost $6 million is sitting there right now. We take $1.1 million out, and then we're taking more money out until it becomes almost $3 million.
And through the chair, the intention is not to continue that practice. The intention is by 2016, have enough base budget in the budget process to continue to fund that liability. So again, the purpose of the recommendation is just to smooth out the impact rather than resulting in a significant spike in 2015.
Okay, thank you. And Mike, you're comfortable with these numbers?
Through the chair, staff took the approach of trying to ensure that we met our obligation in terms of the liability while trying to minimize the impact to taxpayers by driving a spike again in 2015. So I am comfortable, and I'm comfortable with the approach to try to blend the approach.
Okay, thank you very much for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Ferguson.
Mike, this looks like an issue that's been around for a long time, but this is my first meeting on this particular standing committee. By reading this, I interpret it to say there's no impact on the levy by this $1 million transfer. Is that correct?
Through the chair, note there will be an impact on the levy, and again, the approach is to impact the levy and to draw on the reserve in 2015 and 16, and to do it in a gradual or staged approach. So for 2015, there'll be a $1 million increase to the levy and a further $1 million increase or pressure to the levy in 2016. So again, it's a blended approach in utilizing reserve funding and impacting the levy.
Okay, because it says you're transferring from a reserve the $1 million, but you're also going to the levy for $1 million then, if we approve this.
Yeah.
And it's still about $6.5 million is 1% on the levy?
through the chair, 1% is about $7.4 million. But again, in order to ensure that the funding is sustainable, we're required to impact the levy. So again, the approach that staff are taking and their recommendations to committee today is to increase the levy in 15-16, draw on the reserves over that same period in an effort by 2017 to have a sustainable source of contribution from the levy towards this liability.
So if we approve this recommendation, it's impact the levy of $1 million in 2015.
Through the chair in 2015 and 16. In 2015, a $1 million pressure, and in 2016, a further, an additional $1 million pressure.
You know, I am new to the committee. How long has this problem been hanging around?
So through the chair, this is an actuarial review. So this is, again, this occurs, I believe, every 3 years. Every 3 years. So this is the most recent review, and from time to time, depending on the performance of our investments, depending on the obligations as it relates to these pensions, municipalities or other agencies are required to adjust their contributions to these liabilities, to fund these liabilities. So again, this is a result of the most recent actuarial review, and again, there's a number of factors, including what's occurred in terms of the market returns on investments, as well as the liability as it relates to existing pensioners and future pensioners in terms of life expectancy, as well as the cost of sustaining those contributions towards pension obligations.
You recall last term, we were seeing every year a 20% increase in the contribution owners because of the 08 meltdown. Do we have any other pension plans that are in trouble besides HSR now? Because I believe we've hit the cap now on OMERS, and then we got this one coming up to bite us. Any other pension plans you're going to be coming to us saying there's a shortfall?
Through the chair, this is I want to be careful in terms of how we categorize it. I don't believe this is in trouble. I think this is periodically what occurs as a result of the actuarial reviews. With respect to OMERS, I think the last, was in 2010, 11, 12, there was significant increases in the contribution rates to OMERS. We have a report going forward to the January 2015 AF&A, and actually the only change is a slight decrease in the OMERS contribution rate for those with a normal retirement age of 60 contribution rate. So we aren't foreseeing a pressure in 2015 as it relates to our OMERS contribution rates, but I'll just remind committee that OMERS has an actuarial deficit of $10 billion. So again, these are pressures that a number of agencies are having to deal with in terms of those future obligations.
Well, the way meltdown of the market last time, do you know if any of our pension plans, be it OMERS, HSR, or others, that are heavily invested in energy stocks?
Through the chair is